I'm the rank you amateur actor. Well, so far, I've noticed a lot of self-mastery oriented or relevant material talking about things to do. I haven't heard too much about things not to do. In contemporary society, in our civilized lives, there are many things. Ooh, many things that inhibit our self-mastery. Things that are not necessary to engage in, or things that something can be done about, or that to take steps to avoid them. And it takes some self-mastery to do this. It's good self-mastery practice. Also, it will make all the things to do towards self-mastery come a little bit more easily. Things such as television. I'm not going to go into everything about that or about any of the other stuff. I'll just give you a couple examples, and then you figure it out. Or just take my word for it. If you want control over your own mind, then don't watch TV. Well, I'm either just not going to say much more about that at all and leave it like that, or go into 3 hours of discourse about it and get me started on that. Television. Just don't watch it. Turn it off. Throw it away. All right. If you want to watch the news, then watch it with a sense of humor. Why even bother? I mean, it's the same stuff, different story every day. And how truthful it is, and how 100% accurate it is, and how comprehensively a story is given. These things are all in question, but what's even more, there's a good reason why television programs are called programs. Their job is to program your mind, to shape your perceptions, to establish what goes in society and what doesn't, and how you are going to perceive the rest of your day. It's amazing how effective television programming is. It is amazing. Most of it, almost all of it, all of that effect takes place outside of our conscious awareness. So a lot of TV viewing, in fact almost all TV viewing, if not all of it, will get in the way of true self-mastery. Another thing to avoid is common everyday foods. Processed foods. Oh man, come on, man. If I wanted to go to the absurd extremes here, I would say avoid breathing the air that's outside. But of course, that's not practical at all, because it is poisonous these days. A vital component of self-mastery is bodily taking steps toward bodily purification. Well, hey, all the toxins, brain deadening chemicals, particles in the air. I'm not going to go into all of it again here. Just please go ahead and just take my word for it. What are you going to do about that? What can you do about it? You can't avoid the air. I'm trying, like I said, that's an absurd example. But I want you to just catch the spirit of it. Just the spirit of it, not the actual content, but the spirit of it. And try to just apply that principle, the spirit of that thing, and the TV thing, and figure out what other things might be getting in the way of your self-mastery or making self-mastery difficult for you. Or more difficult than it needs to be. Avoid reading novels. That doesn't enhance your mind. Those don't enhance your imagination. They don't do anything for you constructive except just eat up your time. Now, if you want to read some good literature, okay, fine. But just sometimes people ask me if I read. Do you read? My first thought is, well, yeah, I learned how to read. I'm literate. Is that what you want to know? Or are you going to ask me if I know how to write also? But then I realized they're asking me if I read books or magazines, as a thing in life. Is it one of my things? Like, do I always have a novel partially read on my coffee table or in my car, so that if I'm at a red light, I can quickly read half a paragraph, And if I say, yeah, I read, then invariably, if somebody's asked me if I read and my answer is yes, the next thing they say is, oh, well, I have boxfuls of books, that I've read. And, you can't give it more than a quarter for each one in a yard sale. So if you read, I'd rather give them to somebody who's actually, going to read them. Somebody who I know, I can pass them on to you. And I'll ask them, what kind of books? Well, stories, novels. Then my response is, oh, well, no, maybe somebody else would be more interested in those than I am. Because I don't read that stuff. And I read to learn things. I read things that I need to read. And when it's other things, non-necessities, by what I mean by need to read, let's say, my boss gives me a set of instructions, written instructions to follow to complete a task, well, then I'm supposed to read that, so I do. Otherwise, I read to educate myself, to enhance my body of knowledge. I don't read for entertainment unless it's some, I don't know. There are certain things I read for entertainment purposes, like the poetic verse of verses written by Robert W. Service during his time in the Yukon during the Gold Rush days. I like to read Mark Twain now and then, but those are not the core things I read. Anyway, reading this stuff that supposedly just entertains you, takes up your time, and it sparks your imagination. Well, it doesn't do that last part. Somebody else's imagination was at work. The author's. Yours is not being exercised. Really. Not in a creative thinking way. You may get some mental imagery from the reading, yeah, but you're not creating it. These are the mental images that somebody else wanted you to have. So at those times, are you engaging in self-mastery at all? No. You're training your mind to create mental images that somebody else wants you to have. That's what you're doing. You're moving away from self-mastery. Other things to avoid are things like, most water. If you have access to water that is definitely purified, that's a really good idea these days. More important than most people know. I mean, most bottled water these days, bottled water was supposed to be the, the antidote to dirty drinking water or impure water. Well, it's not pure anymore either. The whole water table is chock full of stuff that's coming out of the atmosphere, fallout from the atmosphere, that gets through most water purification techniques. Avoid slouching in your chair, in your car seat. Most car seats are made for what we call comfort, and most of them screw up your lower back. So sit up straight in your car seat. Avoid just sitting back and lounging in your car seat when you're driving or riding. Sit straight anyway. Sit up. Just try to figure out more stuff like this. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. A whole lot of it. Things to stay away from, things to not do, things to disengage from, to pull away from. Some of these things are things you grew up with. Things that just seem normal to you, perhaps. They're just part of life. Well, if you really want self-mastery, practice some of it by restraining. You're, practicing restraint with respect to some of these things, and it'll make your self-mastery come more easily, and it'll take some self-mastery to do it, too. It's good training. It's good for self-mastery in a couple of ways. All right. I guess I've made my point. I hope. I'm Tharan Q. Ramacharaka. Be well.